Good grief, what have I gotten myself into? You know, it occurred to me that I've got an awful lot of Waterman's 52s, and I ought to do a video about them. And I wasn't trying to get all of these things, it just kind of happened. I love Watermans from the 1920s and earlier in particular, and the 52 is a great pen. It's kind of their entry-level baseline. This is the pen we make. If you said, I want a Waterman's, you got a Waterman's 52. The 54 is the same size with a bigger nib. The 55 is an oversized pen. The 56 is bigger than that. The 58 is even bigger than that one. That thing's huge. So the 52 is kind of a platform onto which they built a whole bunch of different things. And over time, I've accumulated a whole bunch of them. So I just wanted to take a quick little tour of this. Before I forget, much has been made about the 52 as an entry-level pen for, especially for flexible writing, flexible nib writing. And that's a whole discussion into itself. But the thing is, the 52 has a reputation, a good one, for a good reason. Is it the greatest pen in the world? Well, it's a great one. There are several that are really good, but this is a wonderful company that made great pens. And I'm just going to take kind of a quick look at some of the variations of it. There are a few that I don't have, but this is a good sampling. The first one here I'm going to show you is a part of their mounted pens, is what they called them. And that means that they have overlays. The Waterman's numbering system, I'm going to put a card up so that you can see how it works. But the 52, just to explain that briefly, the 5 in 52, the 5 is in the, the tens place. That means that it's a lever filler. A 4 was a, a safety pen. The 1 was a dropper filled pen, and so on. The 2 in 52 refers to the size of the nib and also the size of the nib holder, meaning the actual size of the pen. There are exceptions with the 52X. That's a complicated thing that's not worth getting into in this video. But a 52X, just for those wondering, it's basically a Waterman's 55 with a number 2 nib, and I think it's actually a 55V. It's a short one. We'll get to the V part. So this first one is this is a Waterman's, I believe it's an 0352. And what that means is, the 3 means that it's a half overlay. So you've got the overlay on the barrel, but that's it. It doesn't go onto the cap. And the 03, I don't know if anybody can actually see this. I think you can on this one, yeah. The 03, the 0 part, means that it's gold filled. Which this one is. I don't even know if it's this. Where is it? It's over there. For those who care. This has a Waterman's clip cap. There are a bunch of variations on the clips. The Waterman's clip I'll get to later, but this is the typical clip cap of the period. I'm going to do a writing sample for some of these pens, but not all of them. This pen I got from Nicola Pang it was in March. I got it at the Baltimore show. Really cool pen, I love these. I'm going to make this fun and breezy. Try to make this a quick and easy video. What is this one here? I'll grab it like that. There you go. This is an 0552 plain. So it's just a smooth pen. Nothing on there. Very elegant. So here you can see that it's got the overlay over there on the cap as well. That's where the imprint would be for the size that the pen is. Just show you the nib here. What's interesting about these feeds, these are the Waterman spoon feeds, which I love. They're really super elegant. They have very deep ink channels and little scoops that are like reservoirs that hold a ton of ink. Some of these have 2 little divots, like down on the bottom, Why? I don't know. Mike Daigle, old pen friend, the inestimable Mike Daigle, he posited that perhaps they were replacements, and that's a good guess. I don't know if it's true or not. Do we know? I don't know. So anyway, that's the 0552 plane. This is an 0552 Sheridan. The Sheridan was 3 very, very thin lines that are together in groups. And for some reason, it's just super elegant. I don't know why it's so pretty looking. Why it's so handsome, but it sure is. This is a user grade pen. This one's not pristine. It's got over here, it has some, what used to be an engraving that's been removed, which is too bad. But because that's there, I saved a lot of money, which is great. Here's the number over there. I'll show you what the feed, I mean not the feed, the nib looks like over there. It doesn't have the little divots on the feed. I can't quite tell. No, it does not. And we're going to go to the next one. I'm going to make this fun. I swear. It's the last thing I do. Quick and breezy and fun. This one. So those are all gold filled. Gold fill, by the way, was more expensive than sterling. Even though sterling is now more highly coveted. This is a 452. What does that mean? It means it's sterling silver. That's what the 4 means. This is the hand engraved vine. Very pretty pattern. This was not cheap. It was a lot of work for somebody to do. The clip has the engraving all over it. This one has a couple of issues. That's why it was so affordable, relatively affordable. There's a little ding in the ball in the clip there. There's a little bit of something missing over here. That's about it. This one does not have, for some reason, a number imprinted on the bottom. It has been said by some that that is because they were replacements. I don't know if that's true or not. I just don't know, because this looks pretty old to me. It doesn't look like it's, any newer looking than the rest of the pen, or than the overlay. There is the nib. What does this have for a feed? Does that have the divots? No, that one does not either. But there are a couple of them here that do. But I was very happy when I saw this. Got this from Hirsch Davis in Baltimore. That was in like March or something like that. It's been a really busy year for me for getting pens. This is interesting. This one is a 452 also. It's a little bit newer. All of those have the clip cap clips. This one has a Waterman's clip, which is, I believe they came out in 1928. But what's weird about these is that they used these skinny Waterman's clips on their pencils before 1928, and they also seem to use them on the 52Vs, which are the vest size ones, which we'll get to. I have not seen, I don't think maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall having seen a 52V with a clip cap clip, but I could be wrong about that. What's interesting about this pen is that it's a little bit shorter than, for example, this one, which is a couple years newer. Compared to the one that's coming up. And it's just kind of weird, but anyway, I got this pen in April of last year. I bought it because I liked the nib and because it's a pansy panel, which is a really neat pattern. Not hand engraved, I don't believe, but it's also a very pretty and rather elaborate pattern. And it's got a really nice nib. This one I just really kind of fell in love with. There's the bottom there, the number. And it's just a really nice nib, really friendly to write with. This one's filled, so I can play with it. And I've been using it in the past few days. I'm just really digging it. and it's in the pansy panel pattern. Always alliterate. Pansy panel pattern. Baby. Great, great writer. And I'll show you what I'm talking about with the height versus the next one. So I think it's an even more pronounced difference between these two. Right here. Yeah, crazy. So this one is another 452. This one's a little bit earlier. It's in the Gothic pattern. That's what this checkerboard pattern is. Very pretty. It's got an engraving there, so I suppose I saved a few bucks there. Another interesting thing I didn't mention is notice the rivets are nice and chunky here. And on the other one, with the skinny Waterman's clip, just by way of contrast, the rivets are little, they're petite. And of course the clip is skinnier. So this one's just another really nice writer. It's filled and it's very fine. Does that? Yeah, that one has the number on the bottom too. I mean, it's not super important to show it to you, but just a really, really pretty pen. They're substantial with the overlay. It makes them a bit heavier, makes them chunkier, and the 52, which is already a good full-size pen, just starts to feel even bigger and more prominent. We've got another P coming up here. Prominent pens. This one's really fine. Particularly lovely. Wee! Very fun. It's a wonderful writer. Very fine. Yeah, that's a nice writer. And there's the pretty nib. Mike does an amazing job with these. One thing that can happen with these pens over time is that you can get kind of a flat spot on them, so sometimes they do need a little bit of love to bring them back. Yeah, nice shiny black feed there. No divots on that one either. We're going to find some divots for you folks. They're coming up. They're somewhere here. And let's look at this one here. This is a really special pen. Got this one from Osmond Sumer. It was not cheap. I'm paying for the nib on this one. But it's a great nib. In fact, it's tricky to use. But this has the Waterman's clip. This is the this is what collectors call the basket weave pattern. That's not what Waterman's called it. They just called this filigree. But it was a very long-lived pattern that got changed by this time. It started out, I'll pull out an example of what it used to look like, with the Waterman's 12, right here. There's this dude, or dudette. So you can see that it's not as wide, but it's an eyedropper. So this holds a fair amount of ink because it goes just right in the barrel. Because this is a lever filler, there's a little air that's around the sack that's in there. But see how this is getting more abstract and modern on the bottom there? And more clearly Art Deco, and this is more Art Nouveau. But that's how it started out, it was with that one there. So that look. So I'm just going to put this over here for now. This is a great pen. And it's got the, probably not a good idea to do this, but I'm going to live light on the edge. I'm just going to, yeah, there it is. Anybody who wants to read 452, if you can. And I'm going to dip this. Does this one have the divots? I think it does. No, it does not. Not that they're important, they don't really matter, but it's just a little fun detail. All right, Let's see what we can do with this piece of ink. There we go. Give it a little dip. Yeah, that's crazy. It's a paintbrush. Is this going to happen to me again? Brush is one word, but that's crazy. It's so soft. And I haven't really worked with this pen very much. If I had spent some time, I could get a lot more out of it than I'm getting now. Very wet. For those who like railroading.
You're driving me crazy. What did I do? Honey,
I like it when I'm not doing it. I like it when other people do.
make everything hazy?
Other people's railroading. Okay, here we have the, these are regular 52s without mountings / overlays. This one is a 52 wood grain. We call it wood grain as collectors. They didn't call this wood grain at the time. It's wood grain. These are mottled pens. Mottled just means it's red and black hard rubber. The colors are mixed together. Initially, the mottled ones were kind of a random splotchy pattern, and it's very pretty. My last video actually had that, for those who are paying attention to such things. This, as you can see, has more of a linear pattern. This came out, I think, in I want to say 23, but it could be a little bit earlier. I don't have a hard and fast number on that. This has a clip cap clip, I believe. No, it does not. Does it? I can't even see. Whatever. Anyway, and it's marked 52 on the bottom. Somebody filled in the imprint here with white once upon a time. And this has a nice nib also. They all do. And all of these pens I bought partly for the nibs. I think that's a little hard for me to tell here if that's right or not. But the one thing that's really cool about these pens is that the feeds match the rest of the pen, you know, the section in the barrel. So if you have a wood grain one, you'd have a wood grain feed that's made out of red and black hard rubber. If you had a ripple one, same thing. When they're this small, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between a wood grain and a ripple. When the ripple came in, I'm not entirely sure. I asked Gary Lehrer at his house several years ago when it came in, you know, when the ripple pattern arrived, and we found a 1923, actually it's a December 1924 English issue of the Pen Prophet, which was their newsletter, and they called it mottled, but it was a ripple. Now, is that when it really came in, or when they started making it intentionally? Who knows? I do know that they did have ripple imprinted pencils in 1926. So my thought was that that's when the ripple really came in, being made deliberately and marketed and sold as such. But I don't know. I just don't know with any certainty. Perhaps there's somebody out there in TV land who knows, who can let me know. Anyway, so that's that one. And then over here, we've got the ripple. Now this one's cool because, for a few reasons. This is what the ripple pattern looks like. It's very cool. I love these. Notice how much black there is here. That's unusual. Usually they're about 50-50, you know, like half red and half black. A little bit more like the cap, but the cap is still pretty black heavy, especially in here. This has some brassing. It's definitely a user grade pen. And it's quite possible that this clip was plated, because when I look at the imprint up close, it doesn't look as sharp as it normally does. It looks kind of soft. But this is a Waterman's clip, so that's 1928 or later. They did make these up until the early 30s. And again, it's kind of ambiguous when everything stopped. These hard rubber pens started to become less popular in the late 20s is when they started becoming less popular, because celluloid became really huge from Parker and Schaefer and those companies. Other companies, even small third-tier manufacturers were making celluloid pens. So Waterman's started making different colors in the late 20s, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But this has a tremendous nib. This one I want to play with a little bit. I don't know if you can see that there, but it's just very long tines, excellent pen. It's a lot like that basket weave, Sterling basket weave one that I showed you earlier. I'm going to give this a dip. This one I think is easier to use. It's not quite as crazy paintbrushy, but yeah, it's definitely a very, very, very flexible nib. And it goes really wide. When I first, hey, run away, cat. When I first played with this thing, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Yeah, this is nice. Yeah, that's great. So wet. Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. And that's part of what's fun about these too is just how wet they are. And for something like this, it's a blast. If you're really writing a letter, dear Mom, or whatever, dear Henry, blah, blah, blah. It might be a little impractical. And it is writing wetter now because I've dipped it than it would if I'd filled it. But, man, is that a great writer. Yeah, what a nice writer. This is the sort of thing I want to write with all day. I'm gonna, in the interest of keeping you entertained, folks, I'm gonna move to the next pen. There are just so many pens to cover here. It's gonna take a week and a half to get through this. But what a cool pen. I love this one. It's a little rough in some places too. As I said, it's got the brassing. And there's a little bit of, this part of the tab on the lever box is a little bit rough. But it's a user grade pen. I'm happy. I can use it without panicking. It's got a hell of a nib. This is a 52 in Cardinal. By the way, Waterman's called these 52s that have the gold-filled clip, band, and lever box, the 0152. Oh, sorry, the 01852, I apologize. 01852. Not exactly sure how that fits into the numbering system because it's getting a little weird. But that's what they call them. They just marked them 52, however, which that should say if anybody can read that. This is a clip cap one. Funny little story, I got this from Nicola Pang too. When I was looking at it, I got it at the Ohio Pen Show last November, beginning of November 2023. And I was looking at it through my loop, and it was the first time that I really noticed that vintage hard rubber has not just the old eraser odor of hard rubber, but it also smells kind of fishy, weirdly, for some reason. And I said, oh, it smells kind of fishy. And he got all paranoid and self-conscious because he's a professional fisherman. So he said, if it smells like fish, let me know. I'm like, oh, and then, I noticed with other pens that they were just as fishy. So I was like, no, it's not you, Nick, it's fine. So I felt kind of badly about that. But very cool thing about the feed here, as you can see, it's cardinal, same color. This is, believe it or not, this is red. It has gotten a little bit oxidized, a little bit faded over the years, so it's not screamingly bright red. And it was never super bright red. A lot of people call it orange. It's not quite orange. It's kind of its own. This is kind of its own thing. But it's very pretty. Another funny thing about red hard rubber, two things. One is that it's much more brittle than black hard rubber. The lamp black, which is what they used, which is carbon, is a material that actually strengthens the material. It forms a molecular lattice onto which the rubber is. Well, it's not really like onto which the rubber is bonded, but they connect, and it's sort of like rebar. That's almost exactly what it's like. It's like reinforcing the hard rubber, and that's why your tires are black and not red or white. But very cool pen. Did a good job of showing off the nib there. But it's a nice nib too. Waterman's was incapable of making a nib that didn't flex. Even their manifold nibs, certainly up until the 40s or so. And then they basically got supplanted by Waterman's Jif, which was the French arm of the company. So it's another part of the story, and that's where they lose me. I'm into the 20s and earlier. And this pen is a dream. This one's really cool. This is about the plainest Waterman's 52 you could get. The most bog standard one, as they would say in Britain, our British friends. It is chased, so that is a little bit fancier than the plain one. The chasing is this pattern that's imprinted into the body of the pen, the cap and the barrel. It's quite worn in this pen. The hard rubber is oxidized, so it is lighter than it would have been when it was new, considerably, especially in the cap. But this pen has a lot of character, a lot of wabi-sabi. I got it in Brimfield, at the Brimfield Flea Market, which is really kind of a misnomer. It's really 24 flea markets. It's a big antiques market that happens 3 times a year. Very famous. I did very well there. I ran around like a lunatic, picking stuff up. That's the only way you're going to find anything there, if you run around like a nut, as I did. But anyway, I did. I was successful. This has a great nib. This is all German silver or nickel silver. So it's all really, nothing super expensive here. And there's the number if you care. And it does have a crack in the cap. But I really love this. This was extremely rough, especially the clip. It had a bunch of crusted junk on it. We took some before photos, and I think maybe we'll put those in here just to show you how rough it was. But here's what the nib looks like. Again, nice long tines, very soft, very flexible. There's the feed. Mike Daigle, the wonderful Mike, has been showing me some great tips on restoring these pens. And he did a lot of work on this for me. Such a great guy. And I'm just going to show you. It's much louder than the other ones are, and that's because it's got some more smoothing to do. As I said, these can get develop a bit of a flat spot after having been used for 50, 60, 80, whatever years. So they do oftentimes need to be smoothed out a little bit for anyone who isn't the person who had been writing with that pen for 50 or 60 or 80 years or whatever it is. So I'm going to try to be careful with this one. Especially with the upstroke, but that's great. It's got a nice thin. Yeah, it's a nice writer. I've got to remember that you folks want to be entertained. It's not just me. But that is a great writer. Ta. Da. I'm Spanish. So here we have some more metal pens. These are gold filled in gold. This one's hard to find. This is a rare pen. Scarce at least. Rare, probably even more likely. This is an 0552 and a half. Yeah, that's what that is. Oriental. So it's an 0552 and a half Oriental. Got this from Sarge Minhas at the California Pen Show in February, or was it? Or March, somewhere around there. It's gold filled. That's what the 05 is all about. If this were solid gold, it would be just a 552 and a half. The half means it's skinny. It's thinner. This has a clip cap clip. This one's probably from around 1918 or 1917, 18, 19, that area. It was short-lived, only from about that period. It was not a big seller. There's the number on the bottom there. And Otto Yang, the super wonderful Otto Yang, great person, wonderful collector, fascinating, funny, smart fellow, asked, what makes this Oriental? Well, that's a good question. To my way of thinking, this really resembles some Indian rug patterns and some silver work that I'd seen done years ago. So I think that's what they were thinking. It's a very Western notion. Just calling it Oriental. Here's the nib. I think it's a cool design. He thought it was strange looking. I think it's kind of both. You can actually be cool looking and a little weird. It does happen. I like the AMC Pacer. All right, it's weird. I love it. It's cool. If it was a bubble, it would kill your dog. Keep your dog out of there. But hey, it was a cool card. Anyway, so this was a real find. And this is something you just don't see. So I'm very, very happy that I found this. The collector in me is really happy that I found this. And it's not perfect, but it's in very nice shape. It's close to perfect. I'm probably not going to use it because it's so unusual and it's in such good shape. And that's another thing, the difference between a user grade pen and a collector grade pen. This is a 552 and a half LEC. I'm very, very proud of this one. I got this from Gary Lair several years ago. It's a plain pattern. This thing was $37. I think it was $37 in 1925, which was a fortune. That's like $600 at least now. But because of the economy of scale, you can't quite go by that direct, inflation calculation. You've got to take into account, what else you could buy with that money. And the fountain pen market then was a lot bigger than it is now. So if you were to get a pen like this now, it would be probably like $2,000. That would be a lot of money. This has a little bit of tarnish, of all things, even though it's solid gold, the overlay. There's a little bit of tarnish on it. That happens, with alloys, gold alloys, especially older ones. There's the 0552.5 LEC. LEC means lower end covered, which is what all of this is. It's very attractive. The other thing that's neat about this is just the proportions of it. It's not too skinny. I thought it might be a really thin pen. It's not. It just looks good. Proportions are really nice. And another thing I wanted to point out that's kind of interesting. If you look at a regular plain 52, this is the non-skinny 52. They're pretty comparable, or pretty close, in terms of their thickness. Interestingly, though, it does appear to be noticeably shorter. I haven't even noticed. It's kind of fun doing a video like this because you see things you haven't noticed before. I got this from Gary Lehrer, who sadly, very sadly, is no longer with us. We were all quite surprised and disheartened that we lost him a few years ago. Which fits really nicely. He was a sweetheart, just a really great person. Had phenomenal pens and just a huge part of the fountain pen community, especially the vintage fountain pen community. He was one of the co-authors of one of the definitive books on Waterman. And there you go. There are the two little divots I'm talking about right there. What are they for? Who knows? And this pen is a great writer. I'm not going to write with it, but really smooth. It feels like a Cadillac. It's heavy for its size. Really smooth nib. And see, you can see that flexing. And it's just that for some reason the lever is just really lovely. The way that the action works on it. And something that's kind of cool about these, it's not on this one, but some of them actually underneath there's a, it's like a plate or whatever that's under here, and it says ideal in the sort of baseball bat or baseball globe that they use. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of, it says, ideal in the globe, and then you open it up and there's a globe underneath it, just like on top. This one doesn't have it though. Now over here we have another Waterman's half-size LEC, but this one's an 0552 and a half LEC, so that means that it's gold filled. The 05, 52 is the fact that it's a lever filler and it's this size. The half means it's skinny, it's thinner, and the LEC means, again, lower end covered. This one has phenomenal detail. It just has not been worn in any way. It's just really in exquisite condition. You can see the milling on the end here. It's very sharp. This is in the Gothic pattern. So this is an 0552 and a half LEC Gothic, if you wanted the exact name. There's the dome looking really good. And there's the, put it again. Somehow these just look so cool with all that information shoved in there. It's part of the fun of this too. I mean, I don't live for these facts necessarily, but it's just like what I've said a million times before. It's like album liner notes. I don't really care who played the drums on a recording that I hate or don't care about. If I love the album, if it's Asia by Steely Dan, and I listen to the incredible drum solos in the title track, I look it up and I find out, hey, that's Steve Yad. Oh my God, I need to find out more about this guy. Oh, he did the drums in 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon. Oh, wow. And he did that and that. And, and suddenly you've got another story to follow. That's what makes this stuff so fun and fascinating and rich, or part of it. And this one, again, is in such great condition. I'm really unlikely ever to use this. I'm okay with that. I like using my pens. I usually use my pens. I almost always use them if I can. In fact, I do use them if I can. But if a pen is perfect and it's been kept in amazing condition for years and years and years, 100 years or more, yeah, I'm going to leave it alone. This one, however, next to it, is a pen that I got that from Travis Young, by the way. Great guy. He's wonderful. He started restoring pens a few years ago, and he's doing a wonderful job. He really is. And not a lot of people do. They don't always get all of the sack parts out when they're restoring them, or maybe they don't do enough work on the nib to get it smoothed enough, Don't get me wrong, I don't like removing tipping excessively, but if a pen has a worn spot, you're going to have to give it a little smoothing. This I got at the end of the same show that I got the previous pen from Travis Young. That was Chicago this year in May. So it was last month, the beginning of last month. And this is also in the Sheridan pattern, that wonderful, elegant, 3 skinny pinstripe pattern. And there's the the butt end there. Let's see, that's right. Really cool pen. And I got this at the end of the show from Mike Daigle again, who does a phenomenal job with these pens. I mean, he was always good, and he's just gotten better and better and better. I don't know what his secret is. He's fanatical about it. He really cares. He does a wonderful job. This thing is just a beautiful writer. So I should not have done that. There you go. I'm gonna dip this in our friend ink here. This is our friend ink. I'm getting better at this dipping thing without going in too far. It's just such a friendly nib. Yeah. Look at that thing. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Look at that fin. Yeah, I want to write with this all day. How quickly you can write with these things. People are like, oh my god, you write so quickly. I'm like, well, you know, that's how I write. You did a great job with this. I want to write with this for about a year. And here we've got our shorter pens, our little ones. These are all hard rubber. None of them are mounted or overlays, as we call them now. This is the 52V in Ripple. Lovely pattern. This is another pen that I really didn't need, but when I saw it, I fell in love with it because it's so gorgeous. It's in such great shape. Got this from Gary Lehrer too. Got this a little before, months before he sadly left the planet. It's got the Waterman's clip. There may be 52 Vs in the world that have the clip cap. I think there must be. For whatever reason, I don't have any. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just used the Waterman's clips on these. I know they used them on the on their pencils before 1928. The V means vest pocket. It's a vest pen. So this was made for men to put in their vest pockets, and women would often get these. So it's got the same width, the same thickness as the regular 52, but it's short, so it looks stubby. Very handsome pen. This one's in great shape. Here's the cool matching feed. And there's the lovely nib. There we go. And yeah, the you know, when they're this size, you know, when a part is this small, when it's a feed, it's hard to tell what's Ripple and what's wood grain. But hey, it looks great. Over here, yeah, when's this one from? I'm not sure when that's from. I don't know. It's got to be from. It's 20s. 1926-ish, 1928 if it's got that clip, maybe. This one is olive Ripple. So these came out in 1928. What was happening was Waterman's, they weren't selling nearly as many pens by this time as they had been. Because what happened? Celluloid is what happened. So you had Schaefer in the early 1920s, I think it was 1924, I want to say it's 1924, when they introduced the Lifetime, which had a really rigid manifold nib and a big, warranty. It was warranted, for a lifetime. Yeah, right. The Federal Trade Commission put an end to that because they were charging people for replacing the nibs. But Parker picked up on it. They created the duofold. So they were making celluloid pens and they had big long warranties, and no longer did they have flexible nibs. Well, Waterman's was kind of, they stuck with what they knew best. You know, they were kind of the old man of the world. They kept making flexible nibs, even their manifold nibs were often a little flexible. And they'd bought the HP&E Day Company, which was the company that was making their hard rubber parts. And they just ran with it. They just said, okay, let's try making these in different colors. So they had the olive ripple, they had the blue-green ripple, which is my favorite, and they had the rose ripple, which was rose and yellow. And the olive ripple was the most common, still hard to find. There are the two little divots in there. The blue-green was less common than the olive, or there are fewer examples of them now. And the rose ripple is the least common. That was the hardest to find. Really cool looking pen. And this came as a set. For whatever reason, I seem to have a number of these that are set. So here's the cute little pencil, which also has the Waterman's clip. And that's also ripple. And each of these ripple patterns is unique. You know, they're all different, which is really neat. It's part of the attraction of them. Like their nibs. Their nibs are all hand finished, so they're all a little different. Now over here, we've got this really nice entry-level bog standard, if you will, Waterman's 52V. This has the German silver or nickel silver, and it's just really, really nice to see such crisp chasing and to have the imprint like that, so sharp. I'll flip that over so those who want to read the imprint can, if they can. And it's just, there's something really, really beautiful about these plain black ones with really crisp chasing, nice and black, no oxidation, and molten imprints. They used something hot to get that imprint in there. And this has a lovely nib also. Note that it doesn't have the band. And these ones that had just the plain nickel silver clips and levers in the boxes, the lever boxes, did not have bands. But there was like an English one. It's either English or it was made for the English market or the French market that did. So it'd be, you know, nickel silver with a nickel silver band. There are a few that are like that. It's kind of weird. And over here, this is a cool one. I think this is an 09 52.5. These are pens that are this size, that are short and skinny, become the half V's. So this is and it's gold filled. So this is, you would think that this is an 05 52.5 V, which it would be generically, but it has this crazy thimble top thing here, which is unusual. That's hard to find. And these, I don't think that these were in the catalog, at least not with the clip. The ones with the ring top were called the 09 52.5 V. So this might be a variant of that, but I was looking for the number and I just couldn't find it. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention before I forget is those crazy dates on the clips. Most of them, when they have a patent date on them, say September 26, 1905, and there's another one that's from 1910 that's above it. And I've got one pen that has an October 9, 1909 date on it, and I just don't know what those are, if they're Canadian or if there's something I'm missing. So again, if anybody in TV land knows, please let me know. I'd be curious to know. I got this from Nicola Pang very recently, also at the Chicago show in May, and this is a wood grain one, which, as I said earlier, just meant that Or rather, not just meant that, but rather that it's modeled. They just called it modeled. But it's a very cool one, and it's a set. This one's got the imprint on the bottom. It's not going to show 952 or whatever. It's just going to show 05 52.5 V. But there you go. 05 52.5 V. And I'll leave this out for a second. This is the cute little pencil that came with it. And what I noticed, like just now, is that this one appears to be Ripple, whereas the other one appears to be wood grain. So if you'll note, this has this sort of curvilinear thing where it comes back upon itself like that, sort of like agate, or kind of like some wood, but you can see, yeah, it's a Ripple pattern. But over here, this one, that's clearly wood grain. It doesn't curve back. So are these not matching? Were they put together after the fact? Did Watermans have these kind of left over and put them together as a set once they were running low on stock? I have a feeling it could very well have been that, because they did do that. They were smart. Most fountain pen companies, if they had stock that didn't move, they would, they'd sell it whenever they could. It might not even appear in a catalog. They might have it remaindered. It'd be a cheaper pen that you could get from a retailer. I mean, there were pens that were made in the 20s that have engravings on them from like 1936, because they were made out of gold and they were expensive and they didn't sell that well, so they made too many. That happened. It's like the Duesenberg. All Duesenbergs are from 1928, but they changed the year depending on when it was when it got a title. So you'd have a 1936 Duesenberg was actually made in 1928. This pen, this set, I'm really excited about. I got these in Brimfield too, and they're pristine. I got a real deal on these. I'm so excited. I don't have many ring tops, but this is one of them. Most pens, Waterman's pens, but all pens really, have micro scratches, even when they're in great shape. This just doesn't. I couldn't believe it. I was thrilled. That pattern looks really nice. Nicely matched. And, I don't know if you folks can see this, but the imprint's really sharp on the bottom there. Get some light in there. There you go. That's really cool. It's one of those cool things that you can kind of marvel at when you're writing with it, or just holding it. Those little details are really a lot of fun. Just makes it that much richer. And here's the cute little pencil to go along with it. I'm very fond of these pens. Very pretty. So that's 20 Waterman's 52s and a few pencils. They're really fun. Great pen to collect. And I hope you had as much fun as I did. We'll see you next time.